Hi, Nigel. Do I have you?
Yes.
Hello. Let's give a minute and then we'll get started. Uh, in interest of time, I would like to welcome all the uh, attendees of this webinar to the InSecSys monthly webinar series, uh, which is a regular knowledge sharing initiative from InSecSys. And this time, uh, InSecSys has brought in Mr. Nigel Bridges, who is the CEO of Veracity Trust Network, which is having an innovative solution in bot prevention. Uh, Nigel brings a plethora of experience along with him. Nigel has been into the industry for many decades and has played a different roles before venturing into Veracity Trust Network. Uh, he has been on many C-suite positions, and without even delaying further, I'll hand it over to Nigel so that he can uh, introduce himself and take you to the journey of how do we prevent bot attacks. Over to you, Nigel.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. It is great to be with you today. Thank you for the kind invitation. Yes, my background, I've been in technology now for about 35 years, seen a lot of things come and go. And Veracity Trust Network, we've been around now for about 6 years, and we specialize in one particular element of the cyber threat, which is malicious bots and how they're growing and how they are beginning to have actually quite a major impact on organizations. So, if you will permit me, I will go through some slides, probably for about 10 minutes, and then we can open it up in terms of a discussion. So let me just share some slides and I'll just introduce the topic.
Absolutely, Nigel.
Great.
Yep. It's honor to.
Just tell me if you can see a big orange slide set.
Yep. Yes, it's appearing.
Excellent. Fantastic. So that's where we are. Let me just move on one. I thought it was worth just talking a couple of statistics. We all love statistics and we all have lots of different statistics, but these are interesting. If you look at the distribution of cyber attacks worldwide, you can see there are certain sectors that really are attacked quite heavily and others that aren't. So you can see 25% of cyber attacks here is in manufacturing. And then, not surprisingly, finance, insurance come in at just below 20%, and then so on down. But what is interesting is more and more cyber attacks now are driven by bots. So automated systems, automated inquiries, as it were, and around about 45% of all website visits are bots. So there's just a quick tip. If you're using an analytics software and it doesn't take the bots out, then you are counting bots as well as humans. So your statistics are not going to be great. But around about 48% of website visits are non-human, but around 30% of website visits are what are known as malicious bots looking to do harm. So looking to do things like steal data, plant ransomware, set up fake accounts, scrape prices, all of those kind of things. So just be careful. A third of your website visits you want to prevent because they will be malicious bots. It's not surprising just how we're all being attacked in terms of the of cyber fraud these days. Just a few headlines here I just picked up 2 days ago. So the incidence of cyber attacks in India, 17 trillion within the next 20 years. That's a very big number. So 370 million malware attacks this year just in healthcare and hospitality. So This is happening all the time. I won't go through them all, but there's an interesting uh, paper came out in terms of the cyber threat report for India for 2023, and you can just scan this and see that the threats that we are facing is now significant. It's huge. Ransomware incident ratio 1 in every 650. Total detections over 400 million detections, 8.5 million endpoints. And this is getting worse. So, just to summarize, around about 30% of all traffic to websites comes from sophisticated malicious bots looking to do harm. Average cost of a data breach globally is over $4 million. Around about 50% of consumers say they won't do business with a organization that has experienced data loss through cybercrime. And certainly in the UK, I can't talk for India, but certainly in the UK, 11% of businesses experienced cybercrime in the last 12 months. So some big numbers there. Should you be interested, we have categorized harmful bots and what they do. And there are about 12 different types of harmful bots. And they range from a thief, very obviously a bot, breaking into your website, getting through the defenses to steal data. Obviously, very high risk, dangerous bot. Um, through to bots that scrape data, through to bots that set up fake accounts, through to bots that are simply nuisances but flood your network and destroy your statistics. So avoid them if you can. Busy slide, but this is simply to say that no vertical market is immune. You have generic bots that will attack anyone, and you will have people that will write bots specifically to attack certain vertical markets and certain organizations within those vertical markets. So if you're sitting there and you are an education provider, don't think that you're immune from these things. And the reason is simple. Every organization that has a website that has data behind it is vulnerable because that data is worth something to someone. So you just need to be really careful. This is a very interesting slide. This is taken from NASDAQ in the US. NASDAQ listed companies that have experienced data breaches all experience a reduction in their valuations. So there's a consequential knock-on effect there for organizations that do have breaches. Their valuations go down.
Yeah, Nigel, just one point on this particular slide where the valuations are getting eroding due to these attacks. So it is not only the security concern which is impacting organizations' data security, organizations, it is tarnishing the reputation and the overall valuation of the organization,
That is
which is
absolutely right.
very important aspect. And organizations must look at this solution or this issue basically as a risk to the business rather than just a cybersecurity risk.
Correct. I think that is 100% correct. This is a business risk, not just a cyber risk. So for regulated industries, it's a business risk to the business and it's a risk to the directors of that business because in certain jurisdictions, if regulated businesses lose data, then the directors of those businesses can be personally liable. So there's a risk, there's a governance risk, there's a reputational risk. Absolutely. Absolutely, as well as just a financial one. This is interesting. I haven't got many more slides, but Gartner, as you know, produce every year just a diagram of the key areas that need to be addressed. And what is interesting is in Gartner's 2024 technology adoption roadmap, for security, for risk, you will find a very small dot in the top right hand quadrant, so about the 2 o'clock point, called bot management. Can I just say, I think that is going to change very quickly as organizations realize that the cyber threat and therefore the organizational threat through bot attacks is significant and growing. It is suddenly going to become center stage. So you might find that worth reading. And then finally, again from Gartner, I just wanted to say this. A number of people on this call will probably be familiar with the Gartner's cybersecurity mesh and how it all fits together and all the architecture. What is really interesting is Gartner have identified that in terms of protection of websites and web apps and web estates, that tends to be around the WAF. The problem with using WAFs, web application firewalls, is they tend to work in the server, so they work in the edge. And what we're now finding is that sophisticated malicious bots go round that and attack straight into the browser. So it doesn't matter how good your edge security is, bots are now getting round it. They're going directly into the browser, they're going through ad networks, they're going through the supply chain. So you need to make sure that the protection is at the browser end, so the client end, as well as the server end. I won't go through that detail. One final slide for you, just to make this real. This is a financial services organization. This financial services organization had what they thought were all of the cyber protections in place they needed. They had an edge-based bot detection platform. We were measuring 40% of the visits to their website were still bots after those protections. So it just goes to show how quickly this world is moving and how you need to protect on the browser side, the client side, as well as the CDN, the server side. I'll stop sharing there and perhaps we could take that into some discussions, but I hope there's some useful statistics there for you.
No, definitely, Nigel. This is very uh, thoughtful. Before the audience moved into question and answer session, I would like to throw some questions in front of you. How do you see these bot attacks are creating impact in terms of a cybersecurity risk and uh, how this can be solved? Is a WAF implementation of a WAF is sufficient enough, or do you see that a WAF is not sufficient enough to counter these sort of cyber risk?
Yeah, great question. I'll address the second one. For those of you who have deployed a WAF, please don't turn it off. Yeah, they're really good. They stop a lot. We use a WAF without protection. They are incredibly good, and there are some very good ones in the market, and they're good at doing what they do. The problem is we're now seeing bots evolve so that they can avoid the WAF and go round it. So you need additional protection in place to work alongside your WAF protection to stop the bots that get through the WAF or go round them. And we evidence that all of the time. Since the outbreak of well, the war in Ukraine, for example, and various other things, we have seen a rapid increase in cyber threats globally.
Okay. So a follow-up question to this. Now, every attack is blended. So are the bot attacks. So if you can draw a fine line to make people understand how Veracity does things different from a WAF, where Veracity Trust Network starts protecting the organizations and how it is impactful.
Yeah. Um, there is a balance between security and risk and
Mhm.
usability,
Yep.
clearly. So you could stop all data theft through websites very easily. You switch your website off, but that's not going to help in terms of business. So it's this balance. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to tilt that balance in favor of the organization and away from the criminal. And the way that we do that is we work on behavior. So, for example, when a visitor comes to a website, if you went to a website, you will exhibit certain characteristics because you're a human being. You just will. The way you move your mouse, the way you type, the way you move your thumb on your key on your phone and so on will be characteristics of being a human. Equally, when a bot visits a website, no matter how sophisticated it is still not a human. It is still a piece of code. And
Mhm.
so we exploit the micro differences between humans and non-humans to be able to very, very quickly discern whether the visitor to the website or the web app is a human or whether it's a very sophisticated AI bot that's stolen all of your credentials and now is pretending to be you. And I think we still have some years to go before AI bots can genuinely emulate humans to the point where we can't tell the difference.
Okay.
So,
Now, yep. With bots, I see there are a lot of legal compliances which comes in play with AI in picture and a lot of IP theft which are happening. Do we have some mechanism to prevent that uh, with the bot prevention solution?
um, can you rephrase your question? Restate your
Yes.
question?
There are some legal constraints and IP theft which is happening. Blended, it's a sort of blended attack. So, is there something which probably it's something which you are working on providing a solution to counter those in a way, detecting the human traffic, the malicious bot, and there is a term called good bots. All
Yes,
the bots are
yes,
not malicious necessarily.
I
So how do
understand.
we ensure? Yep.
Very
How do
good
we
question.
ensure that good bots are allowed and bad bots are dropped?
Yes, we have spent a lot of time trying to make sure that we don't stop the good bots. So that's absolutely right. There will always be good bots. So I'll give you a very simple example is the Google crawler is a good bot. You don't want to stop that bot from crawling your website and indexing it. So we work on a series of levels, if you will. First test, is it a human? If it isn't a human, second test, is it a good bot or a bad bot? If it's a
Mhm.
bad bot, you stop it. If it's a good bot, you let it in, but you don't count it as a human visitor. And if it's a human, you let them in. After that, you will then test your humans for your identity checking and so on and so forth. Um, But no, you're absolutely right. You need to make sure that you don't stop the good bots, but you do stop the bad ones. And that is an ongoing battle, and that is what we focus on.
Mhm. Another question, like most of the time, whatever solution we implement, we first get the threat into our network and then we prevent it. Wherein ideally it should be the threat should be prevented before it hits my network.
I agree. Yes. So um, network prevention solutions should stop them coming in the first place. What I'm talking about here is where the network prevention has not stopped a sophisticated bot, and that sophisticated bot is trying to get into the organization via the website. Yeah. If you think
Yep.
about it, we're great as organizations. We can lock everything down internally. We can put all the protections around our servers and everything that we like. And then we expose our organization via a website to the outside world. And so that is the huge area of vulnerability that is being exploited. And that's the one that we're trying to close down. There are some fantastic cyber threat prevention platforms
Mhm.
out there that work in the network, that work on the servers, that do that. They are great, and I'm not taking anything away from them. But there's this emerging set of threats that are tackling the website and the web app, and the where the threat vector is coming straight in, bypassing the server and going straight in via the website. And that's what we're trying to stop. Bad actors doing that.
Okay. Now, there was one very good citation on Veracity solution. How do you help reducing carbon footprint? Like we all are going towards zero carbon footprint. So, and Veracity solution also contributes to that. So, if you can explain that
Yes,
scenario.
absolutely. Every organization will, certainly large organizations, will understand the cost of processing a website visitor. Yep. And that will come in terms of human cost, it'll come in terms of processing cost, come in terms of your cloud servers and so on. And so usually people can put a dollar cost on how much it costs actually for every website visitor they get. And as they go further into a dialogue, the more it costs. Well, if 47% of your website visitors are not human, but you are processing that visit, then that's 47% of your processing cost is wasted. If we can stop those bots right at the front door, then you don't have that processing cost. And we have a very simple calculator. You can base it on industry averages if you like. But for example, if you've got 80,000, in fact, I'm looking at it earlier. If you've got 80,000 monthly sessions, that's around about 26 kilos of carbon on industry averages. So if you had 80,000 bots that were stopped, you're saving 26 kilos of CO2. We all know the IT industry is a huge contributor to carbon. Um, if we can reduce that, then everyone wins.
Absolutely. With this note, I would just like to ask you one question, which is definitely uh, how people can evaluate and experience the Veracity solution. What is something Veracity has been doing? If you can name few of the notable customers globally uh, from different walks of life, like you mentioned, manufacturing is the biggest.
It's the biggest attacked sector, although
Yes,
financial
which
services is
yeah,
probably the biggest damage.
yes, yes, which usually people don't understand. In BFSI sector, we have always seen BFSI technology. These sectors are a bit advanced than others, but manufacturing sector has been always treated like, oh, we just have the basics in place and we are good, which is not the case now.
No, that
So,
that is right. Any organization where the website has a link to back-end data is vulnerable.
hmm,
Um, so, uh, so our solution is I'll tell you about adoption in a second, but our solution has been deployed in financial services. We have a number of charities that use our solution because if you run a charity, your
Mhm.
data is incredibly valuable. Your donor data is valuable. If that is stolen, you probably won't be a charity very long. Um,
Yeah.
so who else? Manufacturing, the gaming sector, because organized crime write bots to set up fake accounts so that they can launder money through the gaming sector. E-commerce, we have a number of clients around e-commerce. Got some very big ones that unfortunately I can't name, but we've got some smaller ones I can. Um, and there's a double hit for e-commerce because
Mhm.
if a bot lands on your website, what it's trying to do, perhaps steal your data, um, block your inventory, set up fake accounts, fill a basket and then leave it there so that that inventory isn't available for other people. But also, bots click on adverts. So if you're advertising on Meta, so Facebook or Instagram, again, around about 40% of the clicks on those ads are bots. So that's 40% of your ad budget that you have wasted. What
Yeah.
we can do is we can reduce the bot clicks on the ad so that you get more humans for the same ad spend. So in e-commerce, you get it's a double negative, as it were, and therefore a double positive. Um, you also asked the question about trying it, as it were. For all of our clients, we will say use the software. It's 15 minutes to install it, zero operational overhead, very straightforward. We will suggest to the client, why don't you use it for a week or two?
Mhm.
Just no charge, use it for a week or two, and we can do an audit of the amount of the traffic that's coming through to your website, for example, whether it's human, whether it's bots, what those bots are doing. And so that if you find that you really have no bots at all, no bot visitors, you've got a report where you've got a clean bill of health and everything is good. But if we begin to detect bots coming through and they are threatening ones, then you know you've got a vulnerability, and then we can move forward and we can begin to stop them. So it's very straightforward and easy to adopt, but it has to be evidence based.
Uh, One question, like whenever we say implement the solution, most of the solutions are free to evaluate. And that's where the CISOs and the CIOs are primarily concerned about, hey, you are going to use my data. And that's a major concern
Yeah, no,
from
we
data security and privacy perspective. So I would like you to throw some light on how it is not going to be
yeah,
making their data at risk first. And second, if there are any compliances which should be taken care of while implementing such solution.
I can address both those points very easily. The first thing to state is that we don't measure or store any personal information. We are not interested in who the visitor is. We're simply interested in whether the visitor has a pulse or the visitor is a machine. So we don't take personal data. There's no data threat. In the UK, across Europe, we're fully GDPR compliant, and we're very happy for people to look at that, to audit that. But we don't store personal information. We don't read it. We don't want it. So there's no risk there. And on the compliance side and everything, the install, there's no changes to any networks, no changes to any setup. It is simply a little piece of JavaScript that goes on the website itself. And it's that JavaScript that measures the behavior and allows
Mhm.
us to perform the Turing test and work out, is it a human or is it not a human? So it's incredibly low risk. Well, it's zero risk. Um, we always encourage CISOs, CTOs, have a look at that JavaScript just to check it. It is genuinely benign. And then we will always encourage trial it somewhere of low risk and just make sure you test it thoroughly. We know it works, but you need to know it works in your environment. So that is absolutely common. We're
In
about
India,
taking risk away, not adding it.
absolutely. In India, we are running a promo right now, which is just less than a lakh, and you can implement the solution for the whole year for your organization. And we'll be more than willing to extend this offer to all the participants here. We'll be sharing the details later. Here, I would like to take a minute to uh, brief you about what InSecSys as an organization does. InSecSys is a cybersecurity and information security consulting firm specializing into advanced solutions, service protection to the organizations from cyber threats. We do compliance implementations, enablement. We have managed security services. We do penetration testing and all sort of assessments. We provide CISO as service, GRC as service, CIO as service, third-party risk management as service. And beyond that, we customize and tailor-made solutions to your need. We do not sell solutions, but we resolve your issues. So our focus is not to promote a particular product, but to resolve the concern which you have in your network. With this, I'll have the floor open for audience to ask any questions to Nigel. And we have a feedback form which has been shared uh, to your chat window. Please do fill us the feedback form. This will help us to curate content better and also will be a motivational factor for us to do and do more to deliver you better and better content for cybersecurity.
Yeah, hi Shitansu and Nigel. This is Sujit. First of all, I would like to thanks for your very informative session. We learn a lot from this session. We really appreciate for your time. So here I do have some question. This is a general question related to security threat. So we see globally that few of the geographical area, few of the countries who are basically means through those country the cyber attacks are coming more. Either it's through a website or either it's directly through means server attacks and all. So how we are going to handle those kind of geo-specific attacks, and what kind of solution currently we have to handle such kind of attacks? If we know that this geographical area is kind of more dangerous for the IT world, so means do we have some specific solution for that, or are we managing through the general kind of security protocols?
That's a very good question. I'd love to answer that. So what we're finding is we have the ability to see geographically where a bot attack has come from. Most of the time that is accurate, but some of the time it's not accurate because very sophisticated actors mask the geography. So that is becoming a problem. Interestingly, for a lot of our customers, a lot of their bot attacks comes from their home market, interestingly. But there's certainly bot attacks coming from, I won't name them, but various state actors. What we have found is that geography is now no longer a reliable indicator of the origin of the attack, simply because people can mask it. So the first thing you can do, for example, is if you have a website and you are only selling to the Indian market, is you could try to prevent all website visits from outside of India. That's fairly straightforward to do. The problem is it won't stop the sophisticated bot attacks. The only place, as far as we're aware, the only place you can stop those is when that attack gets close to home. So stop them in the server and then stop them at the browser if they've got through the server level. And indeed, using IP blacklist doesn't particularly work anymore. People can swap IPs, and that's why we use behavior. Behavior is the only true indicator of humanity. So I'm sorry,
Just
that
to
was a
add on,
short answer, and I could talk for hours, but we probably don't need hours. We don't have hours.
absolutely. Just to add to that, IP masquerading and ghost VPNs, these are very common. So this will not help you do geofencing and protect your organization a lot. Any further, any further questions do we have from audience? Sanjeev, Nikita, if you have received anything on direct chat.
Whilst we're waiting, if anyone would like to connect with me, please feel free. I've just put my details up there, just very briefly. I'll just leave them there for 30 seconds while people think.
Nigel, one question. Uh, bot attacks in the IoT and OT environment, how it is impacting, and do you see that this is going to grow, or this is something which is not a matter of concern at this point in time?
No, it is a matter of concern and it will grow. We all hear those horror stories of being attacked through the fridge because the fridge is connected to the internet. But
Yes.
absolutely. Unfortunately, we live in a world where there are evil people looking to do evil things. And those people usually have a lot of money and are very, very bright. So they will be using every means they can to attack. Some attacks will be specific. You're a specific bank in a specific location. They want to attack you for your customer data or to launder money or whatever. Other attacks will be generic. They will just send out an attack and they will look for a vulnerability that they can exploit later. And you can imagine one of the easy ways to do that second kind of attack is through IoT. You look through devices, you see which devices are connected to the internet, which devices are connected to your backend systems, and you use that as a gateway to look for vulnerabilities.
Yep.
Be really careful.
Yep. Now, as the bots are being AI powered and also having social engineering, data harvesting, all those embedded into the bots, do you see that this is going to be more a matter of concern, and we should be driving this whole gamut to a business risk like we talked earlier, and it will not remain uh, in the silo of cybersecurity risk that you just need to take care of the bots which are coming to the network, but the business will be focusing more from industry perspective.
Yes, I do. Let me give you one example, which I think has been growing in the last year or so and will continue to grow. The more we rely on AI and the more we rely on, say, machine learning works on vast amounts of data. So what a criminal could do is they can pollute that data set with bad data. So they'll penetrate the
Thanks.
system, pollute the data set. Your machine learning is then giving you false answers because it's working on polluted data.
Thanks, Nigel. Thanks for your time, and hope the audience liked this webinar and they found